My name is John Burris. I'm the owner of the Little Wellness Company. I'd like to share with you a very exciting video today. It's called the Chiropractic Conundrum. In this video, I'll be explaining the proper treatment with chiropractic care and the order of how you care for your spine in the correct way. Many of us experience chiropractic, and it's a wonderful tool in your healing toolbox. However, there's some missing parts that we don't always get proper information for, and it often comes in bad information and whatnot and can cause harm in the long term. So in today's video, I'll explain how the spine works, how the tissue around the spine supports the spine, and the proper order of adjusting and caring for the spine itself. So thank you for joining me here. So herein lies the problem. There is a darker side to the chiropractic world, and I hate to admit it. Chiropractic is a wonderful tool for your toolbox, yet there's some things that happen that shouldn't happen, and we can explain that to you today. So the spine isn't, it's just not absolute in itself, sitting in space. It's surrounded by the soft tissue. The soft tissue being the muscle, the fascia. The spine does not move out of place by itself. So the nerves and the bones in the spine do not move out of place themselves. They're being pulled out of place by the soft tissue, meaning the fascia and the muscle tissue. So in order to correctly adjust the spine, you need to first release the fascia and then soften the muscles, and the bones of the spine will fall back into place rather easily. And that's not usually what happens. One comparison I might like to make is this. You can't put the frosting on the cake before you bake the cake. There's a certain order to things. So in adjusting the spine, there's a certain order to things, and usually that doesn't happen. So once again, here's our spinal column, and we have the vertebrae, and we have the nerves that come out of the spinal column, and it's a unit. But this is not operating by itself. The soft tissue around the spine is what's causing the bones to fall out of place. Bones just don't fall out of place and need to be pushed back in. They're being pulled out of place by muscles in spasm and hard fascia tissue that is pulling them out of place. So you have to put things back in order. You cannot just crack the spine unless you first soften the soft tissue around the spine. So that's the proper order of things, and that's usually not happening. Too often I'll hear stories of a chiropractor having to push and push and push to get things to adjust. They'll either crank on your spine or twist you in positions, or your neck is so tight and your skull is so tight that they can't crack it because there's too much tension in the soft tissue. So, and it actually hurts sometimes, and people have actually died getting chiropractic treatment sometimes because things go wrong, because the chiropractor did not release the soft tissue before they started cracking the bones. So whether it's at the base of the skull, the occiput area, or in the hip region, it's always best to release the fascia first, release the muscles, and then do an adjustment in that order. I like to use this model here to demonstrate how the spine actually works. So in the middle here, the yellow wood here, this is representing the spinal vertebrae, and around it is surrounded by soft tissue, which is muscles and fascia tissue. So these bones are not moving out of place by themselves. They're being pulled out of place by the soft tissue. If you release the fascia first, then soften the muscle tissue, the bones will go back into place easily and stay in place longer. So that's the particular order of things. So back to what is fascia. So muscle tissue is basically a bunch of little fibers, like in these pencils. And they're all surrounded by what looks like saran wrap called the fascia. And the fascia will interweave around there, and they'll blend in between. So you have this muscle fascia network. All these little muscle fibers and all this fascia glued together. And what happens over time, it gets hard and tight and rigid. And that muscle and fascia is what's around your vertebrae. And it's pulling the vertebrae out of place The most important thing you can do first is release the fascia, then soften the muscle tissue, and then adjust the spine. That is the order of things for the healthiest adjustment possible. So fascia work is, well, I do body work. It's a hands-on technique where you actually use your hands to start melting and softening the fascia. It's not necessarily a massage, as in a Swedish massage. It's a special technique that lengthens the fascia like taffy and starts to soften it. The second approach is more of a Swedish massage where you start to separate the muscle fibers of the muscles itself so they start to soften and lengthen and have a healthier vitality to them. After you've done that, then you can adjust the spine because it's softer. So two things happen. First, it's easier for the chiropractor to make an adjustment. They don't have to put their body weight on you to get the adjustment. They don't have to force an adjustment. They don't have to strain. They don't have to try to fix it. Things fall into place by itself. The second thing that happens is the adjustment stays a lot longer in place. It doesn't fall out of place, and it stays longer. So those are the benefits of doing things in the proper order. And this is another model I like to use here. So if you've been diagnosed with a disc problem, a slip disc, spinal stenosis, a herniated disc along the spine, your spine is not causing that. That's the after effects. That's what's happening down the road. It's not the first domino, it's the last domino. What's causing it is the muscles and the fascia outside the spine that are anchored to the spine. And when they become too tight, they cause compression in the spine. So the muscles of the fascia outside of the spine become too tight because of injury, because of stress, because of repetitive pattern, like too much weightlifting, too much running. All of a sudden they start to compress as they get tighter and shorter, and they start to pull the spine together and compress it. And then you start having a disc that comes out, or all kinds of other complications. Well, the spinal issue is not being caused by the spine itself, it's being caused by the associated soft tissue around the spine. So again, when it comes to healing, the best approach is release the soft tissue. First, fascia body work. Yoga is also another wonderful tool, but it takes longer to soften the fascia in the tissues. Fascia body work comes first. It's a special technique. You have to have it done with a fascia body worker who's trained to do it. Swedish massage would start to soften the fibers in the muscle tissue. And after that's done, the spine will crack very easily and go back into place very easily. There shouldn't be any force or any pressure applied. It should be an easy adjustment where the adjustment lasts for a long time. So while chiropractic is a wonderful tool in your healing toolbox, there are some gaps in it. A lot of the chiropractors are trained to believe a quote from Hippocrates which says, "Look well to the spine for the course of all disease." Well, not necessarily so, because the spine is just part of an integrated system that can go left or right, good or bad, and it's being affected by the tissue around the spine. This tissue around the spine is causing the spine to do all kinds of different things. So once you start correcting the soft tissue around the spine becomes healthier in itself. So why isn't this happening? Well, that's the secret. Most chiropractors really want to help people. They're in the helping business for a reason. They really want to help people. So a lot of times the ego gets involved where a patient comes in and needs an adjustment. So the chiropractor doesn't want to fail. So they want to work really hard to make the adjustment. So they're trying so hard to help the patient, and maybe that's not the right thing to do. Sometimes the best thing might to do is send them away and say, "I can't adjust you until we soften the soft tissue first." That's hard for a healer to do, to fail, to not give an adjustment. The second part is also economic. If a patient comes in and needs an adjustment, and that's how the chiropractor makes their living, and they don't get paid because they didn't make the adjustment, well, they're going to try to make the adjustment because that's how they make their living. So we can correct that by integrating these other systems by first teaching people you have to soften the fascia first. Lots of yoga, fascia body work, it starts to soften the glue that keeps everything together. And then you do a certain amount of Swedish massage that starts to relax the muscle tissue. And then the bones fall back into place easier, and your regular chiropractic treatment is much easier for the chiropractor, and it will hold much longer, so you don't have to return as much. So I know it's not a great business model for a chiropractor, but that's the easiest way to keep the body healthy. You've got to do it in order, or it's not going to work. So once again, to recap things, I'm a very big believer in chiropractic as part of the healing toolbox. But I'm also a believer in the order of things. And I believe you have to correct things by doing them in order. So the way I prefer doing it, soften the fascia first, relax the muscles with a massage work. And this could be not just one time, it may be several treatments to get to a point where your bones are ready to be adjusted. And the final leg is adjustments, which are pushing things back into place that have come out. That's how nature intended things. You've got to do things in order. So once again, you can't put the frosting on the cake before you bake the cake. You've got to release the soft tissue first before you adjust the spine. So I hope you enjoyed this video. If you'd like to learn more, you can subscribe to my channel, and there'll be more leading edge videos to come. You can also visit me at my website, johnburris.com, for more leading edge information. Thank you for watching.